People who quit a job in the heat of the moment. What shit show did you leave them to handle? Episode 4. Work as a glazier. Boss was a jerk and was making us break union rules. So I quit and reported him to our union hall. He only had a crew of 4, him and myself included. We had 137 showers to install in Wine Country Resort and only had about 2 months to do it. And I was the only one with any experience installing shower doors, so I can only imagine the fuckery that went on after I quit. Back in college I was working part-time at the local KFC/Taco Bell. Usually a pretty chill place. End of the year is coming up, a bunch of holidays in a short span: Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Our branch manager was going on vacation for the last 2 weeks of the year. On her first day off is when the schedule came out for that time. I was scheduled to work all 4 of those holidays. I brought this up with the shift manager and she told me to take it up with the branch manager, to which I said, you know damn well she's on vacation. How can she change it? We were allowed to switch shifts with anyone without it being a big deal, as long as both people agreed obviously and just let the shift managers know. Well, about 40% of our staff was Muslim and do not celebrate Christmas, while I'm not and I do. My family was getting together and celebrating on just Christmas Eve that year, so that was the only day out of the 4 I was even trying to switch. Nobody would oblige. So on my last day before the holidays, I told them that if they don't switch me for at least 2 of the days then I will not come in for any of them. They kind of just laughed it off as, yeah right. Christmas Eve comes. It is almost 4 PM, the end of the morning shift and the start of my evening shift. I'm at home with my family and I get a call. It is one of the aforementioned persons who would not switch with me and also laughed my statement off. Hey man, where are you? I'm not coming in. I told you and you laughed. You're kidding, right? You on your way? No, I'm not working all 4 holidays and I just asked to switch one and nobody would, and you won't switch with me. I hang up. I got about 4 more calls from them before they stopped trying. I never did go back in. I work primarily in locked mental health facilities for kids/teens. Part of this job is the simple fact that sometimes you are forced to go over on your hours. Not legally forced, but there are safety regulations about ratios of staff to patient. I understand this, and while it sucks, it's part of the job. Well, this facility, let's call it Newport News Behavioral Health Center, that's definitely just a name I made up and not the real name of the facility, was managed by people who had no idea what they were doing. We consistently ran out of supplies for the kids. They lived on site. If they were on the urgent side, we didn't have proper equipment for staff and often worked at well over the ratio we were supposed to, which is dangerous for everyone. Also, favoritism was rampant. Some staff members could spend entire shifts just passing out free food to staff/kids they liked while never doing their actual job. The same staff favorites never worked a minute past our 12-hour shift times. All in all, it was awful. Well, one day I'm on hour 16 of a 12-hour shift when the night manager gets on and tells me we have to take this kid to the emergency room. Keep in mind this kid was with me for the last 16 hours and no one thought it was an emergency. Nothing had changed with his status. I told them there is no way I can do that. The hour will be hours and I have to come right back there at 7 AM to do this all over again. The manager said he would mandate me to stay. I walked out. They fired me. You think that's the end, but it isn't. I had kept meticulous records of every time I was harassed, mandated to stay for long shifts, while the favorites left early, and forced to spend my own money for supplies for the kids. We are talking things like tampons/pads, not crayons or something. I had dates, times, locations and everything done there was on camera. I submitted it to HR and told them I wouldn't sue. I just wanted my job back. They reinstated me, but I wasn't done yet. The shitty managers all liked to stay in their offices and have meals with members of staff they liked, leaving the rest of the staff with the kids. They had planned this elaborate get together for them during work hours. Well, what they didn't know is not only was I well liked by the kids, but most staff liked working with me because I took my job seriously and was fair. I had been talking about unionizing as well. Instead, we decided to say fuck this. At first we wanted to all walk out together, but decided against it, because while we would love to stick it to them hard like that, we still loved the kids, and didn't want to risk them being injured. So we did the next best thing. The most fed up of us quit that week, leaving shifts that needed coverage. Everyone who got a call to pick up a shift refused to do it for less than a $100 incentive bonus. Then another wave of quitting. Same thing now, except it's $200 incentive bonus time. The final wave came when all the managers had planned their lunch. We knew there would be managers to make sure the kids were okay, so we all walked out. There was around 150 people working there. This includes maintenance and office people, not just counselors. They had about 60 counselors, 15 or so full-time, 10 part-time and the rest PRN. Out of those 60, 37 quit on the same month, 3 full-time stayed. We also reported the fuck out of them to any agency that we could. I was a grill cook for a steakhouse. I had probably 20 to 30 different cuts of meat going on the grill, and the shift supervisor asked me to go out and mop the buffet area because someone spilled something. I told her that should probably be a task better suited for the buffet workers, since I have to focus on the meat on the grill. She told me the meat is not the priority right now, customer safety is. To which I replied, so you don't care at all about all these customer entrees that are cooking right now? When she said no, I said cool, so it looks like you don't need me anymore. Took off my apron and went home, leaving no one to work in the kitchen that night. The manager called me the next day to get my side of the story, asked me to come back, which I declined, and ended up firing the shift supervisor over the shit show. I started a job building and troubleshooting electronic equipment. I was told I would get a raise after 90 days and again at 6 months. He hired a woman to do all of the wire wrapping for a big order. There were only 2 of us, and I asked my boss how she was doing because I did not have time to examine her work. He told she's doing fine, she's really fast. I knew how picky the customer was, and the directions they provided for the assembly were very explicit. Sure enough, we finished the project, it's delivered to the customer. The woman who did the wire wrap quite immediately afterwards, everything she had done was rejected. It all got returned to me and it all had to be inspected and then repaired. I spent 3 months getting everything done. I went to my boss and said I was supposed to get a raise. He tells me he did give me a raise, and I said it's not in my paycheck. We went around about it, and I thought that's it, I'm done. I found another job when I told my boss I needed the next Monday off so I could do my physical for my new job. My boss was pissed and said you should leave right now. I said you are firing me for giving notice? Cool, and I immediately walked out. Now I was in the middle of fabricating and wiring a pretty large piece of equipment. I heard later, when he realized what I left him, he got very angry and was throwing things and screaming. Couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy. Not a real shit show, but more of a personal revenge. I got a small job the summer before going to uni so I could get a little bit of cash, since the university I was going to was out of town and I didn't want to go too deep in student loans. It was a small clerk job at a grocery store in a nice upper class neighborhood next to my parents' place, so it was pretty easy going as we mostly dealt with older people and young and upcoming adults. I'm a pretty social guy, so customers liked and recognized me in general, and honestly they would never be rude nor complain, which is pretty rare for a customer service job. Since I was trying to make the most money possible, I would always try to take the most shifts and would always say yes when my colleagues asked if I could take over theirs. So I was at the store very often and knew the regulars on a first name basis, and I think some of the other employees looked up to me when something had to be done, even if I was only a regular employee. The first 3 months went by like a charm. Unfortunately, my manager hired a new supervisor, Rhonda, fake name, at the beginning of August that was being transferred from another store because the influx of customers to our store had really grew over the summer. Rhonda didn't like me from the start. I'm not sure if it's because I was basically doing her job already or because she thought I talked too much, but she never enjoyed my presence. Maybe it was because she was much older and needed to feel powerful. She would always make me do the dumbest shit, and at wrong times, like organize the recyclables when some aisles were empty, or take out the trash when the carts were full. Also, on 2 occasions she literally changed the time of my shift to an earlier time without telling me, so she could say that I was late. One Tuesday morning the manager was very angry when I came in and called me into his office. He told me he could understand that I was slacking. I wasn't, since the summer was almost ending and I would be leaving, but he never thought that I would go as far as stealing from the cash. I was flabbergasted. Apparently there was upwards of $500 missing from last week's deposit that I had made, and Rhonda said she saw me fiddling with the envelope and taking some money. He told me he was very disappointed, but if I went on and confessed he would fire me, but not press charges. I said I never took it, so the police came and they took a look at the tapes and took my statement, but they had no real proof except Rhonda's suspicion, so they couldn't do anything, but I was fired anyway. I was pretty fucking mad, but it was my last week anyway, so I said fuck it. The same night I got a call from the manager, and he said they found the missing money. It was tucked in another envelope underneath the main register. He felt super bad, so he asked me if I wanted to do my other shifts at the overtime rate, and I said why not. He thought I was coming for the money, but I was actually coming to take my revenge on Rhonda the lying bitch. I came back the next day and Rhonda was pretty mad that I was still there, but all she could talk about during her break was her 1-week trip to Europe that was coming up this Friday. I knew what I had to do. I looked up the schedule and saw that it was me, her and another coworker that were closing on Friday. I called the other employee that was working, and judging by the fact I had taken so many of his shifts during the summer I knew he would agree. I told him I'll pay you what you would make if you came in at the store if you call in sick on Friday. He didn't really understand, but he agreed pretty easily. Friday night came around and we closed earlier because it was a long weekend. Her flight was later that night, so she asked to leave early, but since it was only me and her, she really needed to be there to help close the store. What's special about Friday nights is that we get large orders of fresh fruits on Friday and the clerks and supervisor have to pack them all up after close, and it takes about 1h and it's a 3-person job. There was a lot of customers that night, so we even closed a little later than usual, and as soon as the last one left she started screaming and berating me that we have to do this quick and to hurry up, and she that needed to close the store because her flight was in less than 2 hours. I smiled and told her to go f herself and I left. She ran outside and told me to come back or she'll get me fired for real this time and that she'd call my parents. Lol. And I told her good luck, it's my last day. The look on her face was priceless. I laughed all the way home. The next day, my coworker told me that not only did she miss her flight, she botched the job so bad that, unbeknownst to me, she wouldn't be promoted to the manager position when our current manager would leave in the coming weeks. F you, Rhonda. You can join my Discord server if you want. There is a link in the description. Have a great day.